Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're the one always giving, always chasing, always trying, while someone else pulls away the moment you get close? That's not your weakness. That's not your flaw. That is a pattern. Today, I want to break that pattern with you. I want to show you how to stop chasing the avoidant and instead become the one they crave. Not just want, crave. Because when you understand human psychology, when you learn to manage your energy, when you reclaim your power, you become magnetic, not by begging, not by overgiving, but by standing so confidently in your value that the avoidant can't help but feel your absence. This is not manipulation, this is transformation. Let's dive in. The first thing you've got to understand is this: energy is everything, not some things, not just your mindset, everything. You walk into a room, before you say a word, people feel your energy. The avoidant feels it. They sense your need, they sense your fear of loss. And when that energy is rooted in lack, in anxiety, in overgiving, you leak your power. You become the emotional pursuer in a dynamic that thrives on distance. Avoidants don't crave more attention, they crave freedom. So the moment you start chasing, proving, over-explaining, or emotionally overextending, you become noise. You become predictable. You become emotionally loud in a way that screams, "Don't leave me." And what does the avoidant do when they hear that? They step back even further. Not because they don't like you, not because they don't feel something, but because your energy is invading their safety zone. So here's what you do. You hold your energy. You don't collapse the moment they pull away. You don't rush in to fix it, decode it, or take it personally. You breathe, you slow down, you regulate yourself, because that's where your power is. Think about it. When you were fully in your worth, fully in your life, fully in your purpose, weren't you magnetic? Weren't you calm? Didn't people lean in to hear what you had to say instead of you needing to be loud just to be seen? That's because energy doesn't lie. It either repels or attracts. And when you're grounded, you become gravity. What happens when you stop leaking your energy to someone who's inconsistent or avoidant? You shift the polarity. You reverse the dynamic. Suddenly, they're the ones wondering why you're not chasing, why you're not reacting, why your focus isn't glued to them like it used to be. That subtle energetic pullback does something to the avoidant mind. It creates mystery, and mystery fuels desire. But it's not just about pulling back. It's about filling the space you used to give away, the space you once used to explain your worth, earn their love, or fix their discomfort. Now, you fill it with your growth, your joy, your stillness, your emotional discipline. That's when the game changes. You no longer show up from a place of proving. You show up from a place of knowing. Knowing your value is the loudest, most powerful energy you can carry. You see, the real attraction isn't about how much you love them. It's about how deeply you're willing to love yourself when they pull away. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you stand out. You're not begging for breadcrumbs. You're sitting at your own table, and you've got a feast of self-worth laid out in front of you. If they want to join, they better bring something, not just take. And guess what? When you do this, when you stop leaking energy and start holding it, the avoidance starts feeling your absence. And I'm not talking about the surface level kind of absence. I'm talking about the kind of silence that echoes, the kind that disrupts their nervous system just enough to make them curious enough to wonder what changed, curious enough to start craving what they once took for granted. So the next time you feel that urge to overgive, to chase, to explain yourself one more time, pause. Pull your energy back into yourself. Not in anger, not in manipulation, but in power, in presence, in peace. Because the moment you master your energy, you become unforgettable. Now that you've learned how to hold your energy, the next step is what you do with the space that's left behind. Because here's the truth. Avoidants need space to feel safe. That's their default. That's how they regulate. So instead of seeing that space as rejection, see it as opportunity. Not for them, for you. Give them space. But don't just wait around in silence hoping they come back. That's not power. That's passive dependence dressed up as patience. No, you fill that space with your own growth, your own elevation, your own momentum. You shift the entire dynamic by changing what you do with your energy once it's back in your hands. Here's what most people do wrong. They give space, but with resentment. They say, fine, do what you want, but they're secretly watching, hoping, obsessing. That's not real detachment. That's emotional posturing. Avoidance can feel that. It's like giving someone a gift while glaring at them. They'll retreat even more. But if you give space and then start building yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, you stop being the person who's waiting and start becoming the person they can't stop thinking about. You want to know what makes someone crave you like crazy? When you used to be all in and suddenly you're not. When you used to always reply first and now you're slow, calm, unbothered. When you used to shape yourself around them and now you've become rooted, clear, and unavailable in the best way. You see, the space you give is powerful only if you use it. If they pull away and you spend your time spiraling, you reinforce the same dynamic. But if they pull away and you upgrade your life, your mind, your habits, that's when things start shifting fast. Because humans are wired to be drawn to progress. And nothing gets under the avoidant skin more than watching you grow without needing their presence to do it. You're not punishing them. You're not teaching them a lesson. You're realigning with yourself. And that alignment is magnetic. Let me put it like this. When you were obsessed with them, they felt free. But when you become obsessed with your life, your goals, your self-worth, they feel the pull. They start to feel your absence, not just physically, but energetically. You know, pain is an instant of suffering. When you are physically obsessed with something, they become obsessed. And there is an instant of suffering. Let me put it like this. When you are obsessed with your life, your goals, your self-worth, they feel the absence of suffering. They feel the pull. They start to feel your passion, your purpose, your integrity. And the human nervous system is always searching for connection, especially to something it once felt in control of and now no longer does. You flip the script by letting them go and then glowing in their absence by showing, not telling, that you were never waiting. You were evolving. That's when they feel it. That's when they crave it. And not because you begged, because you didn't. Now this part's important. Don't fake it. Don't pretend you're okay just to make them notice. That's still attachment in disguise. Instead, actually be okay. Get busy living. Feel the resistance, but move anyway. Use that silence to become so fulfilled, so centered, so connected to yourself that their absence no longer feels like a loss. It feels like clarity. And that clarity, that's your new currency. Because the moment you stop trying to earn someone's love in their space and start building your own, that's when your energy changes. That's when you rise. That's when they look back and say, wait, what happened? And by then, it won't be about getting them back. It'll be about whether they're worthy of coming along. Let me tell you something that'll change the way you approach relationships forever. High-value people don't chase, they attract. Let that land. We live in a world where we've been conditioned to prove our worth. You send the first text, you accommodate their moods, you shrink your needs so they don't feel pressured, and for a while, that might feel like love, like effort, like loyalty, but it's not. That's survival mode disguised as romance. When you're chasing someone, especially someone avoidant, you're sending one clear energetic message. I need you to validate me. And you know what avoidants do with that? They run. Not because they're bad, not because they don't care, but because your chasing feeds their fear of being engulfed, of losing themselves. So instead of chasing, you attract, not through games, not by pretending you don't care, but by genuinely stepping into your worth, into your power, into your certainty. Because here's what people misunderstand. Attraction isn't about being perfect, it's about being centered. It's about walking into a room and radiating, I'm whole, with or without you. That energy, that's what avoidants crave deep down, even if it scares them at first. Because the avoidant doesn't trust closeness, but they are deeply drawn to confidence without pressure. Stop thinking that proving your love will make them stay. It won't. What makes someone stay is the realization that your presence adds to their life, and your absence makes it feel less full. So how do you embody high value? You set boundaries and keep them, not to push them away, but to protect your peace. You stop justifying your needs because they are valid, no explanation required. You no longer overextend emotionally because your energy is sacred and not everyone gets access. When you stop chasing, you create space for desire to grow. Chasing suffocates desire. But holding your ground, staying in your lane, letting people earn proximity to you, that stokes the fire, that brings curiosity, that rewrites the script. And here's the shift. High-value people don't panic when someone pulls back. They don't react. They reflect. They observe. And then they pivot, if necessary, in alignment with their standards. Avoidants are wired to pull away when they feel someone needs them to feel whole. But when they feel your wholeness, when they sense that you're not trying to trap them, but instead inviting them into something secure and free, that's when you stop being a source of pressure and start becoming a source of peace. And peace is addictive. You have to become the person they fear losing, not the one afraid of losing them. That's the shift. That's the magnetism. And it's not fake confidence. It's built by doing the work, healing your attachment wounds, learning how to self-soothe, stepping back when it hurts and saying, this isn't rejection, this is redirection. You don't attract avoidance by becoming smaller. You attract them by becoming so emotionally solid that your presence is a privilege, not a given. So stop chasing. Let them feel your absence. Let them miss your warmth, your energy, your presence, and not because you forced it, but because you reclaimed it. And once you do that, they won't just want to come back. They'll wonder how they ever felt safe walking away. Now let's go deeper. You've learned to hold your energy. You've learned to fill the space with growth. You've stopped chasing, but here's where things get even more powerful. You learned to master the emotional mirror. Let me explain what that means. Avoidants are incredibly sensitive to emotional intensity. Not on the surface, no, they may look calm, disconnected, or cold, but underneath, they're hyper-aware of emotional pressure. The more emotionally charged you become, the more their nervous system sounds the alarm. Get out. Protect yourself. Escape. It's not conscious, it's biological. And what most people do is respond with more emotion. They chase, they explain, they cry, they demand answers. All of it is valid, but to an avoidant, it feels overwhelming, like being emotionally cornered, and their walls go right back up. So what do? You become the mirror. You reflect emotional safety, not chaos. You respond to their withdrawal with calm presence, not panic. You become the grounded force they can't find anywhere else in their world. When they pull away, you don't emotionally react. You reflect, steady, centered, composed. And let me tell you, that doesn't mean being cold. That means being emotionally in control. Because real power is not about suppressing your feelings. It's about being able to hold them without needing someone else to fix them. Avoidants don't trust emotional volatility, but they do get drawn to emotional sovereignty. When they see that you're not begging them to stay, not trying to change them, not trying to fix everything with words, they start to wonder, why aren't they reacting? And that question starts a new emotional loop. See, when you stop matching their withdrawal with emotional chasing, you break the pattern they expect. You become the emotional opposite of their fear. And that is what creates tension, attraction, and curiosity. It's like emotional aikido. You don't fight their energy. You redirect it by being so centered in your own that they have nothing to push against. No chaos, no pleading, just presence. You say more with silence than you ever could with a paragraph of texts. You hold eye contact calmly when they deflect or pull back. You let the phone stay unanswered when they test your emotional temperature. You show, with your behavior, I'm here, but I don't need you to complete me. That's the mirror. You reflect back what they don't yet know how to hold: stability, emotional clarity, trust without pressure. You're showing them a new template, not just of how to love, but how to feel safe in connection. You're not just sparking attraction anymore. You're rewriting what their nervous system associates with closeness. This is how you become unforgettable. Because when everyone else they've dated turned up the heat and chased when things got hard, you stayed cool, not distant, present, not reactive, composed. You didn't demand their attention, you invited their curiosity. And what's born from curiosity? Desire. So master the mirror. Become the reflection of emotional maturity they've never seen before. Let your stillness interrupt their emotional autopilot. Because once you stop reacting, they have no choice but to feel. And once they feel, they remember you in a way they can't forget. Now let me share with you a game-changing truth. If you want to make an avoidant crave you, you have to disrupt the pattern. Why? Because avoidants are masters of routine, especially when it comes to emotional dynamics. They expect the same script to play out over and over. You reach out, they pull away. You chase, they retreat. You explain, they withdraw. It's a loop that keeps them safe and keeps you stuck. If you want to break free and shift the power, you have to become unpredictable. You have to break the rhythm that keeps the avoidant comfortable in their distance. Not with drama or manipulation, but with deliberate, calm disruption. Think about it. When someone always responds the same way, they become background noise. You fade into the predictable soundtrack of their life. But the moment you stop playing by their expected rules, when you don't react the way they think you will, something inside them shifts. Maybe it's a subtle pause before you reply. Maybe it's choosing silence over explanation. Maybe it's pulling back when they expect you to chase. That break in the pattern creates a spark, a flicker of uncertainty, and that uncertainty can lead to craving. Because people, even avoidants, are wired to want what they can't predict or control. But here's the key. This unpredictability has to come from a place of strength, not insecurity. It's not about punishing them or playing games. It's about choosing your own peace over emotional chaos. It's about reclaiming your power by deciding how and when you show up instead of being at their emotional mercy. When you do this, you send a clear message. I'm not here to be your safety net. I'm here because I choose to be. And that choice, that's magnetic. Avoidants feel safe with distance, yes, but they also crave connection. That craving lives just beneath their walls, and when you disrupt the predictable dance of chase and retreat, you interrupt their autopilot. You force them to notice you, not as the person who always bends, but as the person who stands firm. And standing firm means embracing the discomfort of not knowing what comes next. It means being okay with silence, with space, with their withdrawal, without reacting in desperation or fear. Because when you stop reacting, you no longer feed their fear of being overwhelmed. Instead, you become the calm in their storm. And here's something most people miss. Avoidants hate feeling trapped, but they also hate feeling disconnected. That tension between fear and desire is where attraction lives. Your unpredictability, your refusal to be their emotional punching bag, amplifies that tension. So you disrupt the pattern by being less available in the best possible way. Not cold, not aloof, but clear, consistent with your boundaries, and unpredictable in your responses. Not erratic, but intentionally measured. Now we arrive at a powerful truth that many overlook, but it's absolutely essential if you want to make avoidants crave you like crazy. Your absence is louder than your words. Think about that for a second. How many times have you tried to convince someone to care by explaining, by texting more, by making yourself available at every turn? You flood their space with words, with calls, with invitations, and what does that usually get you? Silence, distance, more withdrawal. The truth is, words can only do so much. They can inform, explain, and plead, but absence? Absence speaks directly to the heart and the nervous system. It creates a vacuum, a void that can't be filled with explanations, or promises. When you are constantly there, chasing, explaining, reacting, you become part of the background noise. But when you step back, pull away, and create space, your absence begins to echo. This echo is powerful because it forces the avoidant to reckon with what's missing. It activates their curiosity. It stirs up their feelings they may have buried or ignored. Suddenly, your absence is louder than any text, any call, any plea you could send. But here's the catch. Your absence must be authentic. It can't be a game or manipulation. It has to come from a place of self-respect and inner peace. Because if your absence is fueled by desperation or anger, avoidance will sense it, and instead of being drawn in, they'll run further away. Your absence should be a natural expression of your boundaries and your growth. It should say, I value myself enough to not be available at every moment. I'm living my life fully, with or without you. And when you live that truth authentically, the impact is magnetic. Avoidance fear engulfment, being overwhelmed by someone's emotions or needs, but they also fear loss. When you're constantly available, you remove the possibility of loss. But when you pull back and show that your time and energy are precious, suddenly the avoidance brain lights up with questions. What am I missing? Why am I thinking about them so much? Why do I want to hear their voice again? That's the power of absence. It doesn't demand attention. It invites reflection. It creates space for longing. And longing is the root of craving. Remember, you don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to beg to be missed. Sometimes the most profound message you send is in your quiet withdrawal, the space you create around yourself that invites others to come closer on their own terms. So, own your absence. Make it meaningful. Make it real. Because when you do, avoidance don't just miss you, they crave. To wrap this all up, remember this. Making avoidance crave you isn't about tricks, manipulation, or trying harder. It's about mastering yourself first, your energy, your boundaries, your emotional clarity. When you reclaim your power and stop leaking your energy in the form of neediness or chasing, you become magnetic, not because you're perfect, but because you're whole and unapologetically you. That energy, calm, centered, grounded, cuts through their defenses in ways words never will. You become a presence they can't ignore, a mystery they want to understand, a peace they secretly crave. You've seen how giving space isn't weakness, it's strength. When you fill the space they create with your own growth and joy, you flip the script entirely. You shift from being the pursuer to the prize. You're no longer waiting in the wings for their approval or attention. You're busy creating a life they want to be part of. This change ignites curiosity and desire because people are naturally drawn to progress and self-possession. Avoidance, especially, can't resist the pull of someone who doesn't need them but chooses to include them. The key to this whole process is emotional mastery. Avoidants recoil from chaos and volatility, so when you respond to their withdrawal with calmness and presence, you mirror the safety they long for but don't always know how to find. Your ability to stay grounded in the face of their distance shows them a new way to be close, one that doesn't trigger their fears but invites connection. This emotional steadiness breaks the predictable cycle and opens a door to real intimacy, making you unforgettable in their mind and heart. Unpredictability plays a crucial role too. Breaking patterns, not with games, but with intentional choices, creates that magnetic tension between fear and desire. When you refuse to play the old roles, the chaser, the fixer, the one always available, you disrupt their autopilot. That disruption forces them to pay attention, to feel curiosity, and ultimately to crave what they once took for granted. This isn't about manipulation. It's about reclaiming your peace and demanding respect for your boundaries. Finally, understand the power of your absence. It's not silence born from anger or hurt, but a powerful, peaceful withdrawal that communicates your worth without words. Your absence creates space for longing, reflection, and craving. When you own that space authentically, you shift the energy completely. Avoidants don't just miss you, they begin to crave you. because you've shown them that your presence is a gift, not a given. So stand tall, hold your power, and watch how the dynamic changes. This is how you make avoidance crave you like crazy, by becoming the best version of yourself, no matter what. Thank you all so much for being here and investing your time and energy into this journey. Remember, the real magic happens when you take these ideas and make them your own. Standing strong, loving yourself fiercely, and creating the space for others to truly see you. Keep growing, keep shining, and never settle for less than you deserve. I'm grateful to share this space with you today, and I can't wait to hear about the amazing transformations you're about to create. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay powerful, and keep making waves. Goodbye, and all the best on your journey.